Chapter 1. An unexpected time travel. Where am I? Alice suddenly sat up from the bed, her head pounding as if it had been struck by a heavy hammer. She looked around. The small, dim room was filled with a stale smell. The water stains on the walls were like hideous faces, and the shabby furniture seemed as if it would fall apart with a gentle breeze. The unfamiliar surroundings made her heart race, and a strong sense of unease welled up inside her. Before she could make sense of it, her head seemed to be on the verge of exploding, and memories that didn't belong to her flooded in like a tide. Those strange yet familiar images kept flashing in her mind. To her horror, she found that she had time traveled into the CEO novel she had stayed up late reading last night and became an insignificant supporting character. How could this happen? Alice was both shocked and annoyed. She tugged hard at her hair, filled with unwillingness and anger. She just couldn't figure it out. How could she have inexplicably time traveled just because she read a novel? She remembered that when she was reading the novel last night, she was still angry at the original owner's weak character and tragic fate. But now, she had become the original owner and was about to face being bullied wantonly by the female protagonist Lily and a group of supporting female characters, and finally being fired and living in poverty. Alice paced back and forth in the room, muttering non-stop, "This must be a dream. Wake me up quickly." She pinched her arm hard, and the clear pain told her that this was not a dream. She had really time traveled. She plopped down on the edge of the bed and forced herself to calm down. She began to recall the plot of the novel carefully, trying to find a way to rewrite her fate. She remembered that the original owner was weak, willed and always endured everything passively in the company, never daring to resist, which led to being bullied. She didn't want to follow the same disastrous path. Since fate had given her this opportunity, she was determined to rewrite the original owner's life. Alice stood up and walked to the rickety window, pulling it open with force. The morning sun shone on her face, bringing a touch of warmth and lighting up the hope in her heart. She took a deep breath, and a firm look appeared in her eyes. She secretly swore in her heart, "Since I'm here, I won't be bullied. I must rewrite the original owner's fate and live a wonderful life in this world." She clenched her fists, as if she could already see the powerful self in the future. From this moment on, she was no longer the weak, willed original owner at the mercy of others, but Alice who was going to take control of her own destiny. Chapter 2. Discovering the original owner's talent. While sorting out the original owner's belongings, Alice discovered an old folder covered in dust and a well-worn diary with frayed edges. She gently blew the dust off the folder and opened it. Inside were some design sketches and creative copywriting. Her eyes widened in an instant, and she was immediately captivated by these works. The sketches had smooth lines and bold, harmonious color combinations. Each stroke seemed to hold boundless imagination. The creative copywriting was unique in perspective, sharp in language, and full of appeal. It turned out that the original owner was extremely talented. However, due to long-term suppression and negation from her original family, her character had become extremely timid, and she simply didn't dare to showcase her talent at work. With curiosity and a glimmer of anticipation, Alice opened the diary. The pages of the diary had turned yellow and gave off an old-fashioned smell. On the first page, the original owner had written in somewhat childish handwriting, "I was scolded by Mom again. She said my designs were all a waste of time and that I might as well find a stable job and get married soon. But those are my dreams. Why can't they understand me?" As she flipped through the pages one by one, Alice seemed to step into the original owner's inner world and witness the intense conflicts between her and her original family. Her parents always demanded that she live according to their plans. Instead of supporting her talent and dreams, they constantly belittled and mocked them. In the company, the original owner's talent was also buried, due to the suppression of the original female protagonist, Lily, and a group of supporting female characters. She was never given the recognition she deserved. Every day, she arrived at the company early and left the latest at night. Her colleagues casually dumped their work on her, under the pretext of training the newcomer. During an important project planning, the original owner painstakingly prepared a highly creative plan, but Lily publicly belittled it, saying that her ideas were too naive and completely unrealistic. In the end, this plan was plagiarized by Lily and credited to someone else. The original owner was furious but dared not speak out and could only endure it silently. To complete the mountain of work, the original owner often worked overtime until late at night. Her life was filled with work, yet she didn't receive the corresponding rewards. Her meager salary had to cover not only rent and living expenses but also meet the demands of her parents. When she didn't have enough money to give to her parents, instead of understanding and comfort, she was met with accusations and scolding. How can you be so useless? You've been in the company for so long, and you can't even earn a decent amount of money. What's the use of raising you? Her mother's sharp voice on the phone seemed to still be echoing in Alice's ears. Finally, after a fierce argument, her parents heartlessly cut off relations with the original owner. From today on, you're no longer our daughter, and we don't have a child as disappointing as you. Her father's cold words completely shattered the original owner's heart. On that day, the original owner wrote in her diary, "What exactly did I do wrong? Why do the people I love treat me like this?" Alice was deeply touched. She gently stroked these works and the diary, as if caressing the original owner's buried dreams and broken heart. She was determined to let the original owner's talent be recognized and rewrite her tragic fate. She carefully organized these works, bound them with colored cardboard, and added concise and clear explanations to make the works more persuasive. She also stayed up late to look up a vast amount of industry information and incorporated the most popular design concepts at the moment. On the day of the company's internal creative proposal meeting, the meeting room was packed with people. When Lily and other colleagues saw the works Alice took out, they all showed disdainful expressions and whispered among themselves. How could she come up with any good ideas? She's just trying to attract attention. That's right. Maybe she copied them from somewhere. These harsh words reached Alice's ears, but she ignored them. She took a deep breath and started to explain. Her voice was clear and confident, and she elaborated on each creative point incisively and vividly. The novel ideas and perfect details stunned everyone. Even the CEO, Jack, cast an approving look. This creativity is excellent. Your name is Alice, right? If you have any good ideas like this in the future, feel free to come to me at any time. Jack's voice was deep and powerful, echoing in the meeting room like a great bell. Alice was overjoyed, and a bright smile bloomed on her face. She knew that her first step had been successful. Chapter 3. Starting work in the company. After the proposal meeting, Alice became prominent in the company with her excellent creativity. She thought she could start a smooth career journey, but she didn't expect that this was just the beginning of her troubles. Early the next morning, Alice stepped into the office with anticipation for her new job. She had just sat down and hadn't had time to organize her thoughts when a shrill laugh came from behind her. "Oh, look who's here. It's our creativity star." Without turning around, Alice knew it was Lily. She took a deep breath and slowly turned around, putting on a polite smile. "Good morning, Lily." Lily, however, had no intention of letting her off easily. She walked towards Alice's desk step by step, accompanied by several female colleagues who always stuck by her. She casually flipped through the documents on Alice's desk, a sarcastic arc forming at the corner of her mouth. "What? Do you really think you're something? It's just good luck. Do you think you can make a name for yourself in this company just like that?" A surge of anger welled up in Alice's heart, but she held it back and tried to keep her tone calm. "I rely on my strength, unlike some people who rely on their family connections." As soon as these words were spoken, the office fell silent instantly. Everyone was surprised that Alice dared to fight back against Lily so directly. Lily's face turned extremely ugly in an instant. She suddenly threw the documents in her hand onto the desk, and the documents scattered all over the place. "What did you say? You're just a nobody who popped up out of nowhere. Don't think you're so great just because you got a few words of praise from Jack. You're not qualified to be arrogant here." Alice was unhurried. She bent down to pick up the scattered documents, sorted them out slowly, and then looked up. Her eyes met Lily's firmly. "Whether I had the ability or not, time will tell. As for you, instead of targeting me here, you'd better think more about how to improve your own ability. Otherwise, even with your family connections, you won't be able to hold your current position." The surrounding colleagues were all stunned. In the past, when Lily bullied others, everyone dared not speak out. They never expected that Alice would give Lily a powerful counterattack as soon as she came. Lily was so angry that her whole body was shaking. She glared at Alice viciously and gritted her teeth, saying, "Okay, just you wait. We'll see." Then she left with those female colleagues, her high-heeled shoes making angry sounds on the ground. Alice looked at their departing figures, her heart filled with mixed feelings. She knew that from this moment on, her days in the company would not be peaceful, but she didn't regret her actions just now. Since she had chosen to rewrite her fate, she couldn't be as weak as the original owner. In the following days, Lily made things even more difficult for Alice. In a group discussion, Lily deliberately rejected all the plans proposed by Alice and united with other group members to oppose them. "This plan is a complete mess. It has no feasibility at all. I don't know how you came up with it," Lily said in a shrill voice. Alice was not intimidated by her momentum. She calmly analyzed the advantages of her plan and refuted Lily's views one by one. "My plan is based on market research and the actual situation of the company. There are detailed plans from cost control to expected returns. On the contrary, the plan you proposed, although it seems perfect, ignores the current resource limitations of the company and simply cannot be implemented." After a fierce debate, the group leader finally adopted Alice's plan. Lily was full of unwillingness. She glared at Alice fiercely and dropped another harsh word. "Don't be complacent. This is just the beginning." Alice knew that there would be more challenges waiting for her in the future, but she was already prepared. No matter what means Lily used, she would not back down. She was determined to make a place for herself in this company. Chapter 4. Striving for improvement. From then on, every early morning, when the city was still wrapped in a deep silence, and the sky was just turning a faint fish belly white, Alice had already arrived at the company. In the office, she sat at her desk, intently tapping on the keyboard. The documents on the screen were constantly being updated, and each line of text seemed to be a mark of her hard work. At night, when the city was ablaze with lights, neon signs were flashing, and the streets were bustling with noise and excitement, Alice would leave with a tired body. She used her spare time to learn various professional knowledge, from the obscure financial statement analysis to the complex and ever-changing market trends research, and strive to be the best in everything. Once, the company was going to hold an important meeting, and Alice volunteered to be in charge of the meeting preparations. She first made a detailed task list, leaving no detail overlooked. In order to find the most suitable meeting materials, she plunged into the company's data room and carefully sifted through the mountains of documents. Her eyes became sore from looking, but she didn't stop. She checked every piece of data one by one and repeatedly confirmed every piece of information to ensure the accuracy and integrity of the materials. When arranging the venue, she climbed up the ladder to hang the banners herself. Her arms ached from the effort, but she still persevered. From the placement of the desks and chairs to the selection of the meeting supplies, she took care of everything personally, striving to create a perfect meeting environment. While Lily and the others were watching and making sarcastic remarks from time to time, thinking that she was bound to fail. Just her. She can't possibly handle the meeting well. I can't wait to see how she makes a fool of herself. That's right. Maybe she'll turn the meeting into a farce. On the day of the meeting, everything went very smoothly. The meeting room was decorated simply and elegantly, and the materials were neatly arranged. The participants took their seats one after another and praised the meeting preparations. The CEO, Jack, noticed this hard-working and outstanding girl, and his favor for her increased a little more. During the meeting, Alice paid close attention to every link to ensure the smooth progress of the meeting. She handled various unexpected situations in an orderly manner, demonstrating excellent adaptability. After the meeting, Jack called Alice to his office. The office was filled with the faint aroma of coffee. "You did a great job in this meeting. The company needs employees like you who are dedicated. Keep it up." Jack's voice was gentle and powerful, like a spring breeze blowing into Alice's heart. With Jack's affirmation, Alice was greatly inspired and became even more determined to develop in the company. She walked out of the office with a slight upward curve of her mouth, full of anticipation for the future. On her way back to her workstation, Alice met Jack, and the two walked and talked about some details of the meeting and the subsequent work plans. Their faces were both beaming with confident smiles, and their eyes revealed admiration and trust for each other. This scene happened to be seen by Lily, who was passing by. Her face instantly turned gloomy. As the original female protagonist, she had always regarded becoming Jack's secretary as her goal. Seeing Alice and Jack being so close, she suddenly felt a strong sense of crisis and was afraid that there would be changes in her plan to become Jack's secretary. After Lily returned to her workstation, she immediately summoned a group of supporting female characters and began to plot how to further suppress Alice. That Alice has been getting too arrogant recently. She actually dares to get close to Jack right under our noses. We must not let her succeed, Lily said through gritted teeth. The other supporting female characters echoed her one after another and offered suggestions. From then on, Lily and her group made things even more difficult for Alice. At work, they deliberately assigned her a large number of cumbersome and urgent tasks, trying to make her make mistakes. Among the colleagues, they spread rumors about Alice to slander her reputation. Alice was aware of Lily's hostility, but she didn't choose to have a direct confrontation. She knew that it was wise to lie low for the time being, so she silently endured everything and worked even harder to improve herself in secret. She used her evenings and weekends to learn more professional skills, participated in various online courses and seminars, and constantly enriched herself. She believed that as long as she was strong enough, she would definitely be able to break through Lily's obstacles and achieve her goals. Chapter 5: Lily's Arrogance. And the first hint of the conspiracy. As time went by, Lily became more and more arrogant. In the office, she openly regarded herself as Jack's personal secretary and bossed around other colleagues. Rearrange this document. The format is all wrong. You can't even do such a small thing well. Go and buy me a cup of coffee. No sugar. Hurry up. Although the colleagues were dissatisfied, they dared not speak out because of her power and had to act according to her wishes. In private, Lily felt that she was getting closer and closer to her goal. She often talked on the phone with her family, planning for the future. Dad, give me a little more time. When I marry Jack, the whole company will be ours sooner or later. His ability combined with our family's resources will surely double our wealth. Her father's satisfied laughter came from the other end of the phone. Well done, daughter. You have to hurry up. All of this was noticed by the careful Alice. By chance, Alice overheard Lily talking on the phone with her father in the pantry and heard some sensitive content about the company's shares and future plans, which roused her vigilance. Since then, Alice began to pay close attention to Lily's every move. She found that Lily had frequent contacts with some strange business people and often secretly consulted the company's confidential documents after work. Alice realized that things were definitely not simple. She decided to investigate thoroughly. Every day after work, she secretly stayed in the company. Using her technical skills, she cracked Lily's computer password and checked her email records and files. After arduous efforts, she finally discovered the astonishing conspiracy of Lily and her family. They not only wanted to control the company through Lily's marriage to Jack, but also planned to gradually push Jack aside after marriage, transfer the company's core assets, completely annex Jack's company, and use Jack's ability to. After obtaining these key pieces of evidence, Alice knew that it was time to expose Lily's true face. A storm in the office was about to come. Chapter 6: Exposing the True Face of the Original Female Protagonist. The night before the company's high-level meeting, Alice sat in her small rental room. The dim yellow light shone on her tired but determined face. She carefully sorted out the evidence in her hands again. Every document and every email was studied repeatedly by her to ensure that there were no omissions. She knew that tomorrow's meeting would be a tough battle, related to the future of the company and whether she could completely expose Lily's ugly face. On the day of the meeting, the atmosphere in the meeting room was solemn. Around the huge oval meeting table, the core senior executives of the company were seated. They were talking in low voices, and their eyes revealed anticipation and confusion about this meeting. Jack sat at the head of the meeting table. He was tall and straight, but his face showed the fatigue of the past few days. Alice took a deep breath and walked steadily into the meeting room. She held the folder containing the evidence tightly in her hand. Her heart was beating a little faster, but her eyes sparkled with determination. Lily, as always, was dressed up beautifully. She had a confident smile on her lips and didn't notice the impending crisis at all. She was chatting easily with several senior executives beside her, and from time to time, she let out a coquettish laugh, as if the whole company was already under her control. The meeting started. Jack briefly introduced the recent business progress of the company, and then he looked at Alice and motioned for her to speak. Alice stood up, cleared her throat, and her clear and powerful voice broke the brief silence in the meeting room. Everyone, today I want to expose a startling secret. As soon as these words were spoken, the meeting room fell silent instantly. Everyone's eyes were focused on Alice. Lily's smile froze on her face. A sense of foreboding welled up in her heart, but she still pretended to be calm and disdainfully curled her lips. Humph, you're being mysterious again. I don't know what tricks you're up to. Alice ignored Lily's sarcasm. She opened the folder in her hand, took out a stack of documents, and methodically displayed them on the big screen. These are the email exchanges between Lily and her father. From these emails, it can be clearly seen that their plan to seize the company's shares has been going on for a long time. Her finger slid across the screen as she spoke, pointing out the key content in the emails. Jack's face instantly turned gloomy. He stared intently at the screen, his eyes revealing disbelief and anger. The other senior executives also showed shocked expressions and started whispering among themselves. A low murmur filled the meeting room. Lily's face turned deathly pale. She suddenly stood up, slapped her hands hard on the meeting table, and shouted in rebuttal, "This is all fake. She forged the evidence. She just wants to frame me." Her voice was shrill and trembling, and her eyes were full of panic and unwillingness. Alice looked at Lily calmly. Without haste, she took out another document. "This is not all. There is also this financial record, showing that they are secretly transferring the company's assets. Every flow of funds is clearly recorded. Lily, do you still want to keep arguing?" As Alice's exposure continued, more and more evidence emerged, and Lily's psychological defense completely collapsed. She slumped down in the chair, her eyes empty, and kept muttering, "Impossible. This is impossible." Jack's fists were tightly clenched, and his knuckles turned white due to the force. His voice was low and angry. "Lily, I have always trusted you. I never thought you would treat me and the company like this." He suddenly stood up and turned to face the other senior executives. "I announce that all cooperation relations with Lily will be terminated immediately. She will no longer be a member of the company." Lily looked at Jack desperately, trying to save the situation. "Jack, listen to me. It's not like this." But her words were mercilessly interrupted by Jack. "You leave now. I don't want to see you again." Lily stood up in a panic. She glared at Alice fiercely, her eyes filled with hatred. "You just wait. I won't let this go." Then, she stumbled out of the meeting room. Alice looked at Lily's departing figure, her heart filled with mixed emotions. She knew that although this battle had been temporarily won, there was still a long way to go. She straightened her back, turned to look at Jack, and said firmly, "We will definitely get the company through this crisis." Jack looked at Alice, his eyes full of gratitude and trust. He nodded, and a round of applause rang out in the meeting room. This applause was not only an affirmation of Alice but also an expectation for the company's future. Chapter 7. The crisis descends. After being kicked out of the company, Lily was filled with resentment and vowed to make Alice and Jack pay the price. She mobilized all the resources of her family and colluded with the Black Group, Jack's sworn business rival. Aware of Jack's company's core business and vulnerabilities, Lily, after multiple secret meetings with the Black Group's top brass, masterminded a devious business plot. They first spread false reports on major media platforms, using online trolls to create a storm of negative publicity. Allegations of severe product quality issues and even fabricated stories of user safety accidents were rampant. In an instant, social media was flooded with negative opinions, consumer trust plummeted, and the once steady stream of orders evaporated. Subsequently, Lily, with generous rewards and alluring job offers, managed to poach several key technical talents and top salespeople from Jack's company. Their departure brought several crucial projects to a standstill, halting R&D progress and endangering client collaborations. The company's stock price plummeted by 30% within a week. Alarmed shareholders called an emergency high-level meeting. The meeting room was suffused with a stifling atmosphere. Shareholders criticized Jack's mismanagement and demanded immediate effective measures. Otherwise, a major adjustment of the company's management would be on the cards. Jack, seated at the head of the table, had a furrowed brow and a face as dark as a thundercloud. His eyes betrayed fatigue, anger, and above all, deep concern for the company's future. Alice, sitting beside him, felt a pang of heartache at the sight of his haggard appearance. She quietly reached out and gently clasped Jack's hand under the table, transmitting warmth and strength. She lowered her voice and said firmly, "Don't worry, we'll get through this together." Jack turned his head, met Alice's resolute gaze, and a warm current surged in his heart. He nodded slightly and gently rubbed the back of Alice's hand with his thumb, silently reciprocating her support. After the meeting, Jack and Alice returned to the office. A brief silence ensued. Suddenly, Jack slammed his fist on the desk, causing the documents and teacups to tremble. He roared in anger, "Lily has gone too far. I'll never let her succeed. She'll soon realize we're not to be trifled with." Alice walked up to him, placed her hands on his shoulders, and said tenderly, "We'll figure it out. We'll definitely weather this storm. Remember, we have each other and the whole team." Jack turned around, gently embraced Alice, and took a deep breath, as if drawing strength from her. Alice patted his back softly in consolation. Chapter 8. Standing shoulder to shoulder to save the company, Alice and Jack launched a race against time. Alice took on the responsibility of external public relations. She meticulously crafted a detailed PR strategy and spent her days shuttling around the city, visiting key clients. On one occasion, Alice paid a visit to Mr. Brown, an extremely important partner. His company had long been a significant collaborator of Jack's, but due to the recent negative publicity, he was highly skeptical about continuing the partnership. Alice arrived armed with a thick stack of materials, including comprehensive product quality inspection reports, recent R&D achievements, and future development plans. In Mr. Brown's luxurious office, Alice began by sharing the company's founding story, recounting the hardships and perseverance along the way in the strict quality control measures. Her voice was firm and captivating, and she effortlessly presented every data point and case. However, Mr. Brown was not easily convinced. He raised a series of pointed questions, doubting the company's ability to remain stable under such a huge crisis. Alice remained calm and patiently addressed each concern, dispelling his doubts with her professionalism and sincerity. Eventually, Mr. Brown was won over by Alice's tenacity and expertise. He stood up, extended his hand, and smiled. "Alice, I trust you and your company. Let's continue our cooperation." Alice grasped his hand excitedly, her eyes glistening with tears, and expressed her gratitude profusely. Back at the company, Alice rushed to find Jack and excitedly shared the good news. Jack's eyes lit up with surprise. He lifted Alice off her feet and spun her round, exclaiming, "Alice, you're amazing. I knew you could do it." As he set her down, their eyes met, and both saw joy and relief in each other's gaze. At that moment, they felt even closer. During the critical R&D period of the new product, the team encountered a thorny technical problem that remained unresolved for several days. One late night, only Jack and Alice were left in the office. They stared at the densely packed data and charts on the computer screen. Their brows furrowed. Alice's eyes were sore from staring at the screen for too long. She rubbed them and let out an involuntary yawn. Jack noticed and got up to make a cup of fragrant coffee for her. He gently placed it in front of her and said tenderly, "Have some coffee to refresh yourself. Don't overwork." Alice looked up, met Jack's concerned eyes, and a warm feeling surged in her heart. She smiled and said, "Thank you, Jack. It's so nice to have you here." They sat side by side in front of the computer, discussing solutions while stealing glances at each other, their eyes brimming with trust and dependence. After some time, Alice had a sudden flash of inspiration and proposed a new idea. Jack's eyes lit up, and they immediately plunged into calculations and verifications. When they finally confirmed the feasibility of the idea, they excitedly high-fived. The moment their hands touched, A jolt of electricity seemed to pass through them. Their cheeks flushed slightly, and they smiled at each other. At that moment, the seeds of love sprouted in their hearts. Simultaneously, Jack carried out a comprehensive internal overhaul. He reorganized the company's structure, optimized resource allocation, and concentrated limited human and material resources on core business. To soothe the panicked employees, he personally held a general staff meeting, frankly explaining the company's difficulties and future directions, and encouraging everyone to unite and overcome the crisis. In the process of developing the new product, a technical bottleneck was encountered, and key technical indicators could not be broken through. Jack led the technical team day and night, poring over a vast amount of literature and conducting countless experiments and simulations. When hungry, they ate takeout. When tired, they took short naps on the laboratory sofas. After a week of continuous struggle, they finally overcame the technical problem, and the new product achieved a major R&D breakthrough. When Alice, who was out visiting clients, learned of this news, she immediately rushed back to the company and dashed into the laboratory. Seeing Jack's tired but excited face, her eyes welled up. She quickly walked up to him, gently hugged him, and said, "You've worked so hard, Jack. You're truly remarkable." Jack hugged her back, resting his chin on the top of her head, and said softly, "I couldn't have made it without you by my side." Throughout this arduous process, Alice and Jack encouraged and supported each other. They often spent all day in the office, having instant noodles when hungry and sharing funny anecdotes during breaks to relieve the tension. Sometimes they would argue due to stress, but they would quickly calm down, apologize to each other, and continue to forge ahead hand in hand. As time passed, their relationship gradually evolved, and a subtle affection blossomed between them. Chapter 9. Love blossoming. After successfully resolving a minor crisis, Jack was overjoyed and eagerly invited Alice to dinner. He had carefully chosen a romantic French restaurant, nestled on a bustling city corner. The exterior was adorned with lush ivy, and the glass windows glowed with the soft flicker of candlelight. When Alice arrived, Jack was already waiting at the door, dressed in a tailored suit with his hair neatly groomed. His eyes were filled with barely concealed anticipation. The moment he saw Alice, the corners of his mouth curled up involuntarily. He stepped forward briskly, gently took her hand, and led her into the restaurant. Inside, the sweet melody of a violin filled the air. Each table was graced with an exquisite candlestick, and the warm, yellow candlelight flickered, adding a touch of romance to the entire space. They sat opposite each other, and Jack nervously rubbed his hands, his eyes never leaving Alice's face. The table was laden with classic French cuisine. The tender steak exuded an enticing aroma, and the delicate desserts were like works of art. However, Jack's mind was far from the food. He took a deep breath and summoned the courage to say, "Alice, going through these difficulties with you has made me feel so at ease. I think I've fallen for you." His voice trembled slightly, a mix of nervousness and anticipation. Alice's cheeks instantly flushed a rosy hue, and her heart was filled with sweetness. She lowered her head slightly, her fingers gently fidgeting with the tableware, and said softly, "I like you too, Jack." Upon hearing this, Jack's face broke into a radiant smile, as if the whole world had brightened. He reached out and gently took Alice's hand. His hand was broad and warm, conveying boundless tenderness. At that moment, everything round them faded into the background. Their eyes were fixed on each other, and it seemed as if time had stopped. After dinner, Jack suggested a walk in the nearby park. The moonlight was like water, casting a silver sheen over them. The park was quiet and beautiful, with the occasional chirping of insects. They strolled along the winding path, and Jack's hand naturally slipped around Alice's shoulder. Alice leaned gently against him, savoring the sense of peace and sweetness. Along the way, they shared their innermost thoughts and aspiration, sometimes laughing heartily, sometimes falling into a comfortable silence, but always acutely aware of the deep love between them. After the walk, Jack accompanied Alice home. Once in her small, somewhat shabby rental room, Alice sat slowly on the edge of the bed, her thoughts in a whirl. She recalled every moment spent with Jack, every smile, every word of encouragement, and every affectionate look. Each memory made her sink deeper into this love. However, When her eyes fell on the shabby walls of the room, the harsh reality hit her like a cold shower. She was acutely aware that this world was but a book, and she was merely a tiny, easily forgotten supporting character. Her fate might have been predetermined, and the future was fraught with uncertainties. What if the story's direction suddenly changed? Would their love shatter like a bubble? Alice's heart was in turmoil. She hugged her head with both hands, trying to clear her muddled thoughts. She thought back to the confusion and helplessness when she first time traveled. It was Jack's appearance that brought warmth and support to her in this strange world. Could she really give up this love out of fear of the unknown? After a long and intense inner struggle, Alice slowly raised her head. The confusion in her eyes gradually dissipated, replaced by determination. She couldn't let fear of the future rob her of the present happiness. Even if this was a fictional world and she was just a minor character, the love between her and Jack at this moment was real. She decided to stay bravely and walk the rest of the way with Jack, facing whatever the future held together. Chapter 10. A happy ending. Just as the company was on the verge of full recovery, Alice's life took an unexpected turn. One morning, as Alice was preparing for a new day, there was a knock on her door. To her surprise, it was her estranged family. After she had traveled and struggled through a series of hardships, her family, who had cut off contact with her, suddenly showed up. Her mother, with a forced smile on her face, said, "Alice, my dear daughter, we heard that you're with Jack now. We were so worried about you all this time, but we didn't know how to reach out." But Alice could see through their false concern. Her father chimed in, "Yes, and now that you're in such a good position, we should be a family again." Alice immediately understood their true motives. They were not interested in rekindling the family bond, but were eyeing the status and wealth that being with Jack might bring. Her heart ached at the thought of their greed. "You cut me off when I needed you the most. Now you come back just because you think I'm with someone wealthy? I'm not the naive girl I used to be," Alice said firmly. Her eyes filled with disappointment. Her mother tried to plead, "Alice, don't be like this. We're your family." But Alice stood her ground. Family is supposed to support each other, not abandon and then come back for personal gain. "I won't let you use me." After a heated argument, Alice watched as her family laughed, their false smiles replaced with annoyance. This encounter made her even more determined to cherish the real love and support she had found with Jack. With the unremitting efforts of Alice and Jack, the company finally emerged from the crisis. The new product launch was a spectacular success. At the event, the huge LED screen continuously displayed the new product's outstanding features and advantages. Staff in formal attire were busy introducing the product's functions to the guests. The media's cameras flashed non-stop, and the venue was as bright as day. Orders poured in rapidly, piling up on the desks of the business cooperation department. The thick stack of contracts was a testament to the company's resurgence. The previously lost clients returned one after another. The company's market share steadily rebounded, and the stock price soared. In the meeting room, the shareholders were looking at the latest financial statements, their faces beaming with satisfaction. Everyone was full of praise for Jack and Alice, and the meeting room was filled with a relaxed and joyous atmosphere. On a sunny and breezy day, Jack took Alice to the park where they had their first walk together. The park was a riot of colors, with countless flowers in full bloom. The red ones were as fiery as flames, the pink ones were as rosy as clouds, and the white ones were as pure as snow. The air was filled with a thick, enchanting fragrance. The lush green grass was like a soft carpet. Children were laughing and playing on the grass. Some were flying kites that soared gracefully in the blue sky, while others were chasing each other, their clear laughter echoing throughout the park. The elderly were sitting on the benches, chatting leisurely and enjoying the warm sunshine. Their faces were filled with the peace and serenity that comes with the passage of time. Everywhere was filled with vitality and energy. Jack's heart was pounding rapidly. His palms were slightly sweaty, a mix of nervousness and excitement. In advance, he had secretly prepared a special spot under an old tree in the park. A beautiful picnic blanket was spread out, on which were placed Alice's favorite snacks and fresh, colorful flowers. Round it, colorful balloons were hanging, each tied with a photo of their journey together. There were pictures of them working late into the night, looking tired, but resolute, and others of them cheering in celebration after successfully resolving a crisis. Each photo was a precious memory of their time together. Suddenly, he stopped, turned around, and looked at Alice with deep affection. Alice looked at him with a puzzled expression. Before she could ask, Jack slowly took out an exquisite small box from his pocket. He knelt down on one knee, opened the box, and a dazzling ring came into view. In the center of the ring was a large, brilliant diamond that sparkled brightly in the sunlight, surrounded by a circle of small, elegant sapphires, like stars surrounding the moon. Jack's voice trembled with excitement as he said, "Alice, will you marry me and accompany me through every day of the future? No matter what difficulties lie ahead, I want to face them with you and create our own happiness." From the moment we faced the company crisis together, I knew you were the most important person in my life. I can't imagine getting through those tough days without you. Alice's eyes welled up with tears in an instant. Her lips trembled slightly, and she was too choked with emotion to speak. Memories of their time together flashed through her mind. The days and nights they spent working side by side in the office, the moments of mutual encouragement in the face of difficulties, and the sweet times they shared. Each scene was filled with love and warmth. She nodded vigorously and choked out, "I do." The surrounding pedestrians stopped in their tracks, attracted by this romantic scene. The children clapped their hands excitedly, jumping up and down to get a closer look at this happy moment. The elderly smiled with relief, sharing comments about the young couple's sweet love. Passing lovers tightened their grips on each other's hands, deeply touched by this beautiful moment. Envious glances and warm applause filled the air, lingering in the park for a long time. Jack stood up, carefully put the ring on Alice's finger, and then pulled her into a tight embrace, kissing her deeply. At this moment, the whole world seemed to be celebrating for them. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting beautiful golden spots on them. Their love, bathed in the sunlight, shone with the most gorgeous luster. In this way, Alice successfully rewritten her fate. She achieved both career success and love in this strange world. Their story became a much-told tale in the company, inspiring every hard-working person. Whenever new employees joined, they would hear the story of Alice's legend from their predecessors, encouraging them to bravely pursue their dreams and write their own wonderful lives with hard work and wisdom.